Hello, I'm Marta Schroeder, and this is the second part of the video lecture for the course HSR130 Introduction to Language and Communication. In this video, I will tell you about the difference between language and communication. I will then tell you about different types of communication that is non-linguistic. So all communication that is not language. Then I will tell you about what language is and how it's different from other types of communication. And finally, I will say a few words about the types of communication and facts about language that you will learn about in this course. So you already know what communication is. But what is the difference between communication and language? I told you that communication is when meaning is sent to a receiver. So meaning is packed into a symbol and sent to the receiver. Of course, that also happens with language. Language uses symbols, such as words, to talk about meaning and share that meaning. So what is the difference between language and communication? Let's think. Is there a language without communication? So is there any way where we use language but it's not communication? You could think, well, sometimes when we are alone, we can use words. For example, when our computer breaks down, we can shout at it, right? And we can call our computer stupid. And you could say, well, the computer doesn't really understand, so we're not sharing any meaning. But really, if you think about it, there is always information conveyed. There is a meaning. There is nobody around, but if someone could hear us, they would understand. And in fact, when we speak to objects like computers, many psychologists say it is because we are so used to communicating with each other that we try and make an impression on our computer by calling it stupid. Of course, it doesn't work, but there really is the intention. I really want to communicate. Whenever I use language, it has meaning that can be shared. So language is always communication, sometimes unsuccessful, but always communication. Is there communication without language? Well, of course. Of course there is. There are lots of different types of non-linguistic communication. In fact, we can communicate in so many ways using body language, facial expression, appearance, eye contact. There are so many ways that we can share information. There is more. In fact, anything that can be interpreted by a receiver can be communication. So, for example, if I want people to know that I have a lot of money, I can pay for a number plate that only has one number. And they are very expensive. But when I go somewhere, everybody will see it and they will know that I paid a lot of money. So there are many things that we use to communicate something. So my message, my meaning would be, I am rich. Look at me. I am important. And the symbol would be the number plate. And the receiver would be anybody who knows that this is a symbol here. And they will be able to read that. So anything from your hair color, if you dye your hair, to your car, to your clothes, to your movements and the way you speak can be a form of communication. And also, like you already know, not only humans communicate, but only humans use language. So a lot of communication is non-linguistic, but language is one form of communication. So what types of non-linguistic communication do we use? Some of the things that we use are universal. That means all over the world, all people use symbols, some symbols in the same way. Those are symbols that we are born with. They are innate and they are involuntary. You can't control them very often. Laughter, when something is funny or when somebody tickles you. Raising eyebrows, being shocked, or crying, when babies cry, when they communicate discomfort. It's not because they think, how can I tell my mom that I am sad? I'll cry. No, it comes naturally. It is universal. And everybody in the world understands it and does it in the same way. Not all non-linguistic communication is like this. Some is learned. So there are also culture-specific types of communication. These are learned. We learn them as we grow up in a particular society. And we can control them. We use them to communicate specific things. So things like smiling, nodding, winking, frowning. Those are all forms of learned, intentional, culture-specific communication. And these are different in different parts of the world. For example, nodding can mean yes in some cultures, but no in other cultures. The same goes with smiling. A wide smile is very popular when you take pictures, for example, in the States, and you will see all American actors smiling very widely with the Hollywood smile. But in other cultures, it is not appropriate. People think that you look kind of silly if you smile like this. You can smile a little bit, like this. Or with pictures, you want to be serious. Right? So these things are different across the world. When you laugh or you cry, everybody in the world will understand it in the same way. But when you nod or smile, people will interpret it differently. Some other non-linguistic communication are systems of signs. For example, football referees have a whole system, and you can see examples here on the slide. So when you stretch out the arm, right, it means direct free kick. And if you raise one arm, it means indirect free kick. And these are very limited. They have very strict meaning, specific to the game. And everybody who is interested in football or who plays football will know the meaning of them. So it's communication without using words. It's similar with sign communication, for example, in Native American Sign Language. And you can see the examples here above me. So you see, for example, that this is a sign for a buffalo. And this is a sign of a rising sun. If you think about it, how are they different from the signs on your left from American Sign Language used by the deaf? So, for example, the sign for where is this, right? The sign for why is this. Well, the main difference is that this really looks like the buffalo, and this really looks like the rising sun. So these symbols are simple. They look like their meaning. They're similar to their meaning. And of course, this means there is a very limited number of things that you can say. So TP is easy. But when you want to talk about abstract things like love, you know, there is nothing that looks like love. Or if you want to talk about politics, you know, there is nothing that looks like politics. And the symbol in the American Sign Language for the deaf are different from the Native American Sign Language, like buffalo, because there is nothing in this that looks like where. It's just a symbol that has an assigned meaning. So then you can have a symbol for any meaning. You can have a symbol for religion or politics or love, just like with spoken language. So sign languages for the deaf are full languages, but they're limited, the limited sign structures like football referees symbols or Native American sign are different. They are not linguistic. So those are different types of non-linguistic communication. And language, you will already know from thinking about the American Sign Language, it's different in that, first of all, it's a lot more complex. It can convey more complex ideas. It's a different thing to say free kick. And it's a different thing to say, I think tomorrow the politicians will talk about the environment or global warming, right? It's a lot more complex. We have a lot more symbols in language, more words. Also, so we have many symbols, many complex meanings. Also, this means that language is not limited to a particular context. So if I do this, it only means something on the football pitch. It doesn't mean anything outside of a football pitch. Also, if I show you my phone, I can only do this if my phone is here. But with language, I can talk about my phone even when it's not here. I can talk about anything, things that you can't see, like love and hatred. I can talk about things that you don't know. I can tell somebody who's never seen